A-list clients that I work with. Chris Brogan, best-selling author. Most of you probably know him from his keynote speeches. Pat Flynn, who does the Smart Passive Income podcast, gets, I think, over 1 million people every week listening to his show. Dan Miller, best-selling author of 48 Days to the Work You Love. Dr. Bruce, who's the sleep doctor on Oprah and Dr. Oz. And hundreds of other entrepreneurs, authors, and podcasters, coaches, and businesses. Those 5 things make up the bulk of my clients, are the entrepreneurs, authors, podcasters, coaches, and businesses. And I've felt very fortunate that more than 3% of all flash briefings now are my clients. Does it really matter? 30% of Americans use digital assistants, and that's actually a little bit of an older number there. I think it's actually showing much higher than that right now. 16 to 30-year-olds are beginning to listen to podcasts instead of music during their commutes because they can multitask. And Google is reporting that 1 in 5 searches are through voice. Many of you probably know Gary Vaynerchuk. He's, I think he's brilliant, but kind of difficult to listen to sometimes. And I don't think anybody can work 17 hours a day, 7 days a week for their entire life. But he does see trends really well. And he talks about voice all the time now. He says voice is where you need to be. When he says something like that and he's putting all of his efforts into voice, you know that it's going to be the next big wave. I truly believe that in 2 years, voice is going to be the way that most of us interact with technology on the most often. And the reason that I believe this is because, a year ago I knew nothing about Alexa. After I started doing this, my wife and I got an Alexa device in almost every room in the house. So in the old days, if I was upstairs and I remembered that I needed deodorant, say, from the store, I would have to go downstairs, go to the kitchen, write it on the list, whichever my wife or I were going to the store at that time. We would have to get that list and go with us. Now I just speak into the air. Alexa, add deodorant to the shopping list, to the grocery list, because you can have multiple lists. You can have a grocery list, a Walmart list, a Home Depot list, as many lists as you want. It's so much quicker than pulling your phone out, opening your list app, swiping, doing all of that, or pointing and clicking on a computer. And my wife's mind was blown this past Thanksgiving because one of her big things, she loves to cook, and she's an amazing cook. But one of the things that always she has trouble with are timers, because, we got the timer on the microwave and she's got to do math, figuring out, okay, this one will be done then and this one will be done then. And I just said to her, watch this. Alexa, set a timer called turkey for 2 hours. Alexa, set a timer called beans for 30 minutes. And she had all of her timers going at one time, named like they should be named. It's little simple things that you start doing, and then you start finding more and more ways that voice can help you. So there are really 2 ways to get on board with voice. One is to create a custom skill with a custom invocation. And that's what most people think of when they think of getting on Google or Alexa or Siri. And that's where you'd say something like, okay, Google, play the Greatness Biz podcast, and then it would begin playing. Or you can also do Alexa flash briefings. Those play when you say, Alexa, give me the news, or Alexa, play my flash briefings. You can say either one. If you're doing an Alexa flash briefing, Alexa will play the latest news headlines, then she'll give you your local weather, and then she'll start introducing these micro podcasts called Alexa flash briefings. And they're really amazing. We're going to focus on those a lot in a minute, but let's continue on the overview here. You can create custom skills for Alexa, Google, and Siri, but at this time, you can only create flash briefings for Alexa. Google does have something like that, but they only let in the really big media companies. Individuals and small businesses can't get in yet.
There's fewer devices, Google devices compared to Amazon though, right? So in terms of
Absolutely.
Scale, it's actually, what, 50 to 1?
I don't think it's 50 to 1 anymore. Google really did well in the summer and fall quarters. They actually beat Alexa in those 2 quarters, but then they fell back off when they stopped doing the massive amounts of advertising that they were doing. This past Christmas, it's estimated that 15 million devices were sold over Christmas. It was the number 1 device on Black Friday, number 1 device on Cyber Monday, the number 1 device for the entire holiday season. It was so powerful how big this was that it sold out throughout most of Europe. And on Christmas Day, Amazon servers were overwhelmed with requests to Alexa and actually shut down for a while. And that's important to think about. Amazon powers like 50% of the internet with their AWS web services. And Alexa was so popular on Christmas Day in Europe, it brought their servers to their knees. That gives you an idea of why Amazon is really the leader right now and will probably continue being the leader for quite a while. It's also got the name. I mean, Alexa is now like Kleenex. You know, people, Alexa is synonymous with voice, like Google is synonymous with search. So which is better? That depends. A flash briefing is only on Alexa. It's a very short, about a minute every day. But one of the keys to this is people don't have to remember to come back to you. They don't have to remember your name. All they have to do is say, Alexa, give me the news, which they're already doing, and you start playing. Custom skills. I'm sorry, somebody have a question?
I was agreeing with you.
Oh, gotcha. Custom skills can be any length, so you can do long-form podcasts if you want to, and they can play on all 3 networks. But listeners have to remember to say your name and come back to you specifically.
So Jeff, if somebody already has a podcast, Marnie in the room already has a podcast, can she have this custom skill and repurpose her podcast she already is filming or recording?
Absolutely, she can. And in fact, I'm getting into doing a few more of those lately, and I'm starting to move all of my Alexa flash briefings into. I did a post just the other day that where I showed my my flash briefing, and I just said, I want to make sure that Google's unplugged. I just said, hey, Google, play the Voice Minute podcast, and it started playing on there. So I'm starting to do that with all of the flash briefings as well. That's yeah. I recommend all of the above. Create an Alexa flash briefing because those are the dynamite thing that just grows like crazy. Plus, put those flash briefings as a custom skill on Google and Siri. If you have an existing podcast, get it put on all 3 as a custom skill. And if you can only do one of those 3 things, create the flash briefing. And we'll get into why that is in just a moment. The moment is here. Why Alexa? 65 million devices. But while there are 65 million devices in homes, there are only 8,000 flash briefings at this point. When Sarah and I began working together, I think there were 4,000, and it's at 8,000 now. Compare that with 550,000 podcasts on iTunes. There are a lot of reasons why Alexa should be the first step in creating a podcast, and a lot of reasons why Alexa can benefit an existing podcast. So I love podcasts, a big part of my life. If you hear me saying Alexa versus a podcast, it's not because I don't think podcasts are good. I do, but Alexa is the amazing thing everybody needs to be focusing on now, and it can help your podcast grow. This was the fastest device to ever reach a 50 million install base in history, faster than the iPhone, faster than the internet itself. That's how much it's going. It's the clear leader in voice. And Amazon looked at a few things about podcasts and kind of turned them on their heads. I talked with a very popular podcast host who said to me, you know, I do really well. I've got great audience, but finding new people is a problem because there's 550,000 competitors. Getting somebody to listen for the first time is like moving a mountain. And then getting somebody to subscribe after they've listened the first time, I got to move a whole nother mountain. Well, Amazon turned that on its head with flash briefings because the people have to subscribe before they can listen to you. But this is what's neat about that. you can't really ask that of a podcast because very often they're 30 minutes or an hour long. In fact, there was a study that came out just yesterday. I wish I had put it in the presentation, that said that among the people who do not listen to podcasts, the main reason why they don't listen to podcasts beyond I can't figure out how to do it is they perceive them as being too long. So you're asking somebody for an hour of your time, which is a big ask. With a flash briefing, you're asking for a minute of their time. That's not very big of an ask. So people will find your show, they'll sign up for your show. And as long as you deliver value to them, as long as what you're doing is really creating a good relationship with them, good engagement with them, they're going to leave you turned on. So what you've done is you've taken the friction away from subscribing to now the friction's on unsubscribing, which in marketing, that's a really big change there. Secondly, you don't have to remember to come back, as I said a moment ago. And one of the things that's great about this is that they grow about 8 times faster than podcasts. You can see that in the numbers. One of the great things that you've got on this is that you get to engage people every day. With a podcast, it's once a week, or blogs, it may be every day. But once again, with blogs, people have to remember to come back to you. With this, they check the news, you engage with them every day. So after a couple of weeks of people listening, if you say, listen to my long form podcast, then they know who you are. They know that you deliver the value. They know that you are the person that you say you are. They'll give you that hour very often where they wouldn't have if they didn't know who you were. And that's actually been proved out with quite a few of my clients. Daniel Bauer runs a podcast and has for about 3 years called Better Leaders, Better Schools. He launched a flash briefing called Better Leaders, Better Schools Minute in February. And in his first month, his traffic went up, I think it was 5,000 people in his first month. And it had doubled by September. And he credits all of that to his Alexa flash briefing. Who he was, they were able to find him easily. And it's just an amazing situation for him. Okay, so I have, this is my world famous perfect flash briefing formula. And it's been tested through the 200 plus clients that I've got. To make the perfect flash briefing, what you want is you want one time a day, you want 1 minute long, you want one great piece of content that gives value to the listener, you want one call to action, and you want to ask one person each day for a review. I'll leave this up here for a second since generally people like to jot this down. And I'll cover each of them a little bit. My clients that are doing all 5 are succeeding wildly. And generally when somebody reaches out to me and they say, you know what, I've stopped growing, or I've actually started losing people, I go and look, and usually I'd say 95% of the time, it's one of these 5 things they've either stopped doing or they never started doing in the first place. One time per day, every day. People often ask me, do you have to do it every day? What about weekends? Yes, do it every day. That's not a big deal, though, because you don't actually have to do it every day. You can batch record these. Because they're only a minute long, you can do a month's worth in just a few hours and schedule them for publication. Then you don't have to think about it for another month, and you come back and do more. So definitely do every day. If you're not there and someone has subscribed to your show, Alexa still introduces you. She just says, there are no new episodes of whatever the name of your show is today. And one day out, every once in a while, it's not that huge of a deal. But if you take weekends off, every week you're hitting them twice a weekend with I'm not here. And that gives people a chance to say, what am I wasting my time on for? There are other ones that I can listen to. 1 minute long. And when I say 1 minute, I'm talking about around a minute. I try not to go over 2. What I've found is that everyone who goes over 90 seconds grows a little slower than if they don't. People take the idea of brief and briefing to heart. And while you can legally on Amazon have up to 10 minutes, 1 minute is really great. I actually did an episode of my flash briefing last week, I think it was, where I had noticed mine had creeped out to about 90 seconds. And I said, I'm going back and making sure it's always under a minute, because I discovered something else. When I'm out socially sharing these on Instagram, they only let you play a minute. If you go beyond a minute, or you can't push through. So for a minute. And on that note, for Instagram and YouTube, I create an audiogram, which is my logo with a waveform monitor of my voice. And there's a great app. It's not an app, it's a website. Call it an app called Headliner. Headliner.app lets you do that, and it's free. And they say it's going to always be free. And it's amazing. I actually create it in the widescreen YouTube format. And when I upload that one, and I've got my logo right in the center, so when I upload that one to Instagram, it cuts off the edges and makes it square. So it works great. You don't have to record two of them. The value part is a big part of this. I sometimes get people who start to think this is like free advertising, and it's not. It's not advertising in any way, shape, or form. This is great content. This is a new kind of content that's daily, that's highly engaged, very precise. You're giving one piece of gold to your listener every day. In that, if you do that, you can ask them. So I have one call to action in here as well. I usually suggest that people have calls to action that switch up from time to time. And by the way, on this perfect flash briefing, with the exception of the length and the number of times per week, the bottom three, you could really say this is true for any content you create, whether it's a podcast, a blog, or whatever. You've got to give people value. And if you give them value, then you can ask for a call to action. And I suggest people have 3 or 4 different ones that they just say, hey, go out and make a great day every once in a while, or listen to my other podcast, or visit my website, or I've got this great course. I'm speaking in such and such town. Come see me if you live there. And one person asked each day for a review is another really important one. You can optimize these every way to Sunday. And in fact, that's part of what my service does, is optimize these. And you can get into absolutely every search result that you want to get into. But the reviews are the fuel that drive you up to the top of those search results. So you want to make sure that you get plenty of those. Special equipment. You don't need any special equipment. I am not a podcast snob, and there are a lot of them. So be careful when someone tells you you can't start unless you've got a $300 microphone and a mixing board and all this other stuff. 80% of my clients use their phone and their headset mic, and they do the world famous closet hack. And what that is that you take your phone and your headset, and you go into a walk-in closet and close the door, stand about 15 inches away from your hanging clothes, and record your episodes there. You sound like you're in $1 million studio when you do that. That's a hack I learned when I was out in California working in entertainment, and it works great. What's funny, though, is I know that a lot of people don't have walk-in closets. Who is a publicist in New York, and she sent me her sample episode. I took a listen to this. I was standing in the closet. So then a week or so later, she sends me some more episodes to listen to. And they sounded horrible. They sounded empty, hollow room, echoey all over the place. And I said, you didn't do these in the closet. And she said, I didn't think you'd be able to tell. And I said, I can tell. Go back into your walk-in closet. She said, I live in New York City. We don't have walk-in closets in New York City. I was at my mom's house last week when I did the other ones in her walk-in closet. So she now just sits in front of her closet in New York, and with the door open, clothes hanging, and it works fine. So if you want to get onto voice, what you need to be doing is recording your briefings, scheduling and publishing them, getting reviews, providing great value, and staying consistent. the consistency is so big. We've all started content plans and we don't follow through, or we do it for 2 or 3 months and then we stop. This is the thing that in 2 years you are going to be so happy that you stayed consistent on. This will be like getting into blogs 12 years ago. This, like I was mentioning, the Ain't It Cool News. This will be you created Ain't It Cool News. This is Facebook Lives from 2 or 3 years ago, that the people who did it build the authority, and the people who build the authority are the ones who win on the back end. Let's talk about a few of my clients. This is Aaron Walker. He has a flash briefing called the Mastermind Blueprint. He's the founder of ISI Mastermind, which is the mastermind that I'm in. He got 10,000 downloads his first month with no marketing whatsoever. He's a well-known guy. There's no doubt. I mean, he gives his like social media marketing world, but he wanted to see what it would do if he didn't. And a download in the world of podcasts for the non-podcasters in there means a play. It doesn't mean a unique play. Generally, if you've got 10,000 downloads, you'll have 6,000 or 7,000 uniques. And so he did his first month, and he's repurposing existing content into building his flash briefing. He wrote a book called The Mastermind Blueprint, and each chapter is a single page. And so he takes the content on those single pages and turns it into his daily flash brief. Dave Sanderson he's a public speaker. He's the last person off the Miracle on the Hudson plane. At the time of the crash, he was Tony Robbins' head of security. And so he's a big, powerful guy. And he went wading through that waist-deep, ice-cold water to save the people who couldn't get out on their own. And when all of the Good Morning America and Today Show showed up after everyone was brought into shore, all the people he saved pointed them over to him. And that day he became a public speaker. He didn't even know it at the time, but now he speaks all over the world. But he was one of my first clients. He launched in January of this year. And his first month, he booked 4 paid speeches where people said, "I heard you first on."
Wow.
Chris Brogan, many of you probably know, I mentioned earlier, best-selling author, keynote speaker. He built his own flash briefing. He's a technical guy and knows how to do these kinds of things. And he's sort of like Gary Vaynerchuk. He's always on the cutting edge. And so he built his own, but he couldn't figure out why in the world he couldn't build an audience. He's always built audiences with everything else. So a client of mine who's a friend of his put us in contact with each other, and he became a client. I found the problems in his RSS feed. I optimized them, and now he's moving up the charts again, and really helped out my business a lot, because he did an interview with Social Media Marketing World about social media marketing.com about flash briefings, and mentioned throughout it. So that's really been a great thing. So you can go with Alexa flash briefings, as we talked about for the last few minutes. You can go for invocation-based custom skills, which you can get on all 3. And as I said, I recommend all of the above as much as you can. Sarah, was I supposed to show a price on this of my services, or leave that off? Okay, just wanted, here you go. If you want an Alexa flash briefing, it's $6.99 setup fee and $20 a month. And if you use promo code GREATNESS when you order, you'll get $50 off. Turnaround time on these is about 2 weeks. And this is true for if you do an Alexa flash briefing, that flash briefing will also go on to Siri and onto Google Play, or Google Home rather, as a custom invocation-based skill. And it will be a flash briefing on Alexa. If you want to take an existing podcast and put it onto the 3 platforms, that's also $6.99, but you just don't have a month fee includes. Yep.
mention to everyone, for full disclosure, there is absolutely no commission nor any pressure. I wanted Jeff, given that he was sharing this information with us, the route I took was working with him, and it was a positive experience. So I just wanted, because I'm Scottish and I always want a deal, I asked him to give you a deal if you wish to work with somebody who has this expertise. But please know, I don't make any royalty commission, have any personal benefit other than to see you successful if you choose to go down this path. And I only recommend people that I work with and that I like, and it's been a positive experience. So, and Jeff also has no expectation, pressure that anyone uses his services. In fact, he would be more than thrilled if folks had an device that helped in their business, or had any benefit, whether you work with him or not. And I know I can say that fully honestly, because I brought Jeff in to speak with our speaking association as well, and nobody felt any pressure working with Jeff too. So I just wanted to, because I didn't key everyone up that we would share an offer, but I want you to know that there's no pressure on Jeff's or my part on that. So sorry, Jeff, I didn't mention that. I just wanted to say that.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you did. Yeah, the $50 off, that's normally what I would pay as a commission. So you get to keep the commission, each of you, if you sign up, since it's $50 off. I think the most important thing for everybody in this room is to get onto Alexa and get onto Google and get into Voice now, because in 2 years, it's going to cost 4 times as much, and it's going to be half as effective. So you need to do this, whether you use me, whether you use somebody else, or whether you go and learn it yourself. You can learn to do this yourself in about 8 to 10 hours generally. So, I mean, it's not an impossible thing to do. If this is something you want to do and you don't want to spend $700, or you just want the fun of learning it, which, sometimes learning something new like that can be fun. The most important thing is get out there onto Voice now. If you do go through me, it takes about 2 weeks. I build your briefing and help you every step of the way, provide suggestions to help make it successful. That's one of the big things that I do. You do have to get approved by Amazon for this, just like you do at the App Store. But the main thing they're looking for is correct volume, correct audio. It's not so much content, as long as you're not really doing something strange. And once you're live, one of the big things that I have is the minute you're live, you know exactly what you need to do on an ongoing basis to succeed. I am available to anyone who wants to reach out to me, and even if you're going to do it yourself, feel free to schedule a call with me, send me an email, send me a note. If you want to use me as the builder for this, you can go to alexaguy.com/deal and use the greatness promo code for $50 off. You'll get the next steps in the mail. To set up a call with me is, I try to keep everything simple. alexaguy.com/schedule, and then jeff@alexaguy.com. My phone number is listed here as well. 281-686-2202. I did find out this morning from somebody who sent me an email saying that there's some kind of weird AT&T set up your voicemail box thing going on my phone right now. So I don't know what in the world that is. But after this call, I'm heading to the AT&T store to find out. But those are the 3 ways to contact me. And from here, I think it's just questions anybody might have. I tried to leave open some time for that.
Thank you so much, Jeff. That was super helpful. Anyone have questions? Feel free just to speak about what you can hear from Angie's computer.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
My name's Marnie, and I'm the one with the existing podcast already. To get on someone's news feed, are you tagging your now I'm trying to figure out what the briefing, are you tagging it with a certain category, so if people are interested in education, or if they're interested in waffle making or coaching or whatever, like, are you niching yourself down within your setup on Alexa so Alexa knows where to funnel you?
Yeah, exactly. When you sign up, what I'll do is I'll send you a form, and it's about 10 questions, and it's all of that stuff you're talking about. It's title, it's short description, long description, keywords, anything that has to do with your business. I then take that information and I give it to my writers who really understand the Alexa search engine specifically. And by the way, this is a dumb search engine. It is like Yahoo in the 90s. It is so dumb. It is it's a very simple search engine so that we can see how to make sure that you do come up in every search result you want to come up with. And that's done through mainly, even though you have this long description that you can put in there, mainly the title and the keywords are what we have found do the best in helping people to find you. But the description, I think, works extremely well because all of that's out on the web in general. Because when you get your flash briefing, you'll get a page on Amazon.com for your briefing where people can enable your show or leave you a review. So you get some nice long tail SEO there through your description. But yeah, the majority of it's done through keywords and only keywords. You can't use key phrases in this. That's part of the simplicity of the search engine. We also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. So I guess because I don't have I have a Alexa that my daughter uses, but I haven't. But does it have the capability? Let's say I plugged it in and I just happened to go on Amazon the other day and buy 10 books on parenting. And I said, Alexa, play the news. Would Alexa know that I went to Amazon and bought those parenting books and say, oh hey, I really like this news brief on parenting? They do know, but that's not opened up yet in Discovery for flash briefings. The main way that people find right now is through the search engine in the Alexa Skills Store. The Skills Store is just like the App Store, but Amazon calls apps for Alexa Skills. And when you get a new device, you open it up, there's a little pamphlet in there that tells you how to get started. And one of the first things it says is install the Alexa app on your phone and go to the Skill and Game store and pick out what you want to do. And there's a big search box there. And so people start searching for keywords. That's how most people will find you at this point. Amazon's not really doing any suggestions of flash briefings. I need to get on the phone with Jeff now. Come on, let's do this. All right, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie. Any other questions?
Not yet.
Yeah. Sorry, Jeff, I keep turning my video off, it keeps crashing and starting up again. That's why I keep disappearing and appearing like magic. Incredibly helpful. It's really fascinating how I was, part of a conversation like this 6 months ago, and how in just that time, 15 million devices have been sold. And it's interesting to hear how Google is getting a big push on it. Amazon's still front runner. And I can say that speakers have been finding it's been helpful reinforcing their credibility. I'm curious what you're seeing and I had asked you this question months ago. What are you seeing now as some of the key gaps that exist in skills and areas? Because I bet you we've got some experts in this room who could help fill that gap. Like I think there's a lot of business podcasts flash briefings, right? But there are gaps in others. Could you share with us what you think some of those gaps are?
Yeah, actually, what they are is niching down for the most part. As I mentioned earlier, I have a lot of clients who are coaches. And coaches have a tendency to want to use keywords like coach. And fortunately, you're only going to get other coaches finding you if you use a keyword like coach. So I think that not being afraid to take it down as tight as you can take it is where that comes in. There are so many places. If you're a coach, we don't want to put the word coach in there. what are you a coach of? If you're a coach of women who own nail salons, then what we want to go in is, more like nail salons, beauty salons, things like that. If you work specifically with schools, we're going to want your keywords and your descriptions to go toward education in schools as opposed to coaching or entrepreneurship. You are absolutely right that business is just jam-packed. In fact, unless somebody is strictly business now, I don't put them into the business category when we submit. I generally put them into the lifestyle, self-improvement if there's not anything else. One thing to keep in mind here too is that the categories within Amazon that they have pre-set up, they're beyond simple. They're pretty abysmal. They need that to be broken out more. So most people, luckily, don't find you through browsing categories. They find you through searching because it's so much quicker to do. But as long as you're not in general business or sports, everything is pretty much wide open right now, especially if you niche down.
Jeff, feel free to move me from business, greatness biz, from business over to lifestyle then.
Yeah, I think I did a while back. We were talking about it, but I'll have to go and check and make sure.
Thanks, Jeff.
That was a great question.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I've lost all audio here.
Let's get back on.
He's
Yeah, it's a really odd question. So my husband is paranoid about Alexa, that it's listening to us.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
So
I've heard this in my house before.
Right. So I think I get this and I think it's great, but there's still that feeling. So I actually have to have it in my office.
okay. Yeah.
He does not want it anywhere in the house because it's actually been on when we haven't turned it on. Like all these weird little quirky things.
Interesting.
And my other small little thing with Alexa's, I keep getting her name's Alexa.
Okay.
We need an old person like Annex, like you can call these other weird things.
Yeah.
It's a big joke.
Yeah.
What's her name again?
So is the question for Jeff?
No, but it's really around this other piece around. I think this is a great idea, but there's this piece around a lot of people being paranoid.
Right.
Alexa is kind of spying. Even in my office, I kind of make sure it's off.
Oh, yeah.
When I have clients, like it's this kind of
So Jeff, what's
weird vibe.
Yeah, Jeff, what is there any sort of safeguards? Is there any, has Amazon released a position around they are absolutely not doing this? Like, can the government access it, our devices anytime they want to, if they want to listen in on this? Like, if this is a very real pushback we're going to get from our partners, and may even some of us may have in this room.
And my topic's trust.
Right, in your topics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's I love when people ask this because this is a very big thing, and I see it among my friends as well. When they find out that I do Alexa, it's one of two things. It's either we absolutely love Alexa. Alexa controls. I've got to turn my camera off again. It's slowing everything down. So they either say, I absolutely love Alexa, it controls my home theater, or they say, oh my God, I don't want one of those listening devices in my home. There are a couple of good points on it. Always be skeptical of new technologies because they are looking for ways to make money off of you. There's no doubt about it. In the history of technology, there is always a trade-off of privacy for convenience. That's never been any different, and it's not any different here. I can tell you that at this point, Amazon is not listening all the time. I can tell you at this point, they're not listening for keywords that are out there. All she's listening for is her wake word, which is generally Alexa or Echo. Once she hears that word, she begins recording. And you can even go into your Alexa app and you can go into your settings and you can see everything that Alexa has ever recorded of you. And you can delete anything you want to delete at any time. You can delete everything if you want to delete out of there. There was a study done by Whitlingo a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about it on one of my flash briefings. By the way, my flash briefing is the Voice Minute, if you want to listen to it. But the Lit Lingo said, everyone's concerned about Alexa, but they're not concerned about their phones. But think about it for a second. Alexa's listening for her wake word, but so is your phone. Yes, ever since Siri and Bixby and all of Google Assistant came out, they're all listening to you at all times. But your phone also has all of your emails. It also has your fingerprints. It also has all of your friends' names and phone numbers. There's a lot more to be worried about your phone than about Alexa. But that said, as I said in the very beginning, always be skeptical. Always look out for it. I do have some clients who feel as your husband feels, and they just don't have an Alexa in their house, which is fine. You can have a fully functional Alexa on your phone that just doesn't listen all the time because it doesn't have access to that installed Alexa app or the Amazon app. In fact, if you have the Amazon app on your phone, you've already got Alexa on your phone. This is a little Alexa button there that you can use, and it's fully featured. So if you don't want her listening all the time, put her on your phone if you want to take part in some of this. But you don't even have to have an Alexa on your phone to have an Alexa flash briefing or to get your podcast onto Alexa and Google Home.
Thank you. That helps. My husband subscribes to Skeptic Magazine.
Well, I did a blog post. Excuse me. I did a blog post. Let me get some water here. I did a blog post a couple of weeks ago where I said that Alexa's not listening to you. You're really not that interesting, and that was that was the takeaway. Was that there's not enough computing power in the world and not enough bandwidth in the world to record what 65 million people are doing 24 hours a day and upload it to Amazon servers. But that could change. So always be skeptical.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Any questions?
That was very helpful.
Jeff, thank you so much for your time today, for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and friends, and how this fits into some of the other things that we're perhaps a little bit more aware of, like podcasts and blogs, and just nice to see how these things that are trending, how they fit into things that we already know exist and maybe be using in our business. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everybody. Love to work with any of you, whether you use my service or not. So let's just get you onto Alexa and onto Google so that you can start getting ready for 2 years from now when it's dominating our user interfaces.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.